Well, we've just finished a pretty incredible 5-day stretch on Alone that saw our first 5 tap outs of the season. Kind of wild how quickly we went from 10 contestants to 5. I don't know if that will continue to dwindle down. Like, usually I feel like to get down to like 5 competitors, we're at least like another 10 days in. But this season had quite a few people that just couldn't hack it. And, they're done. 3 weeks in, they're out of the competition. Our 5th tap out of the season was Cade. If you've been watching my reviews, I haven't been a fan of Cade this season. Still not a fan of Cade. He seemed to think that this was a hunting show and not a survival show. His ego was too big to eat a couple extra cheeseburgers before coming on the show. His ego was too big to try fishing in one of the most abundant lakes in the world. Just seemed very, very silly to me. He's given us lectures this season about he's got to prove these things to his son so that his son won't be a quitter. Meanwhile, his wife has just gone through a devastating experience at home, going through a miscarriage. I know firsthand, watching my wife go through several miscarriages, and you can bet your ass I wouldn't be leaving her alone at home for a month right after she had one. And when we came down to the end, he wasn't thinking about her, he was thinking about his son, and kind of bothered me quite a bit. So yeah, not a fan of Cade this season, and this episode did not change that. So we opened with Comedy Hour with Cade. Is so bad I had to start heckling the TV. I thought the skit was finally over, but it just kept going. Just don't care. I just don't care about the Comedy Hour. I just really don't. Every season, it seems like we get at least one person who does some sort of skit, and it's just all of a sudden like, what are we watching? What are we watching? I don't need a skit about berries or whatever, stealing, whatever that was supposed to be about. I just don't know. We got back on the point of Cade not gaining weight for going on the show, and we're deep enough into this series that not gaining weight before coming on the show is intentionally putting yourself at a disadvantage, which tells me you didn't want to win. You did not want to win. He keeps going on about wanting to kill a bear. Went out to kill a bear. He didn't. Instead, he gets bit by a squirrel a few times. And then he tried to eat his belt. Like the one part of an animal that we don't eat, that's what he tried to eat. He's not sucking marrow out of bones. He's not eating eyeballs, eating brains, eating livers. No, he's going to the one thing we do not eat, and that is the leathery skin. Just very weird to me. Even had the warning pop up on screen that it's just not digestible for humans. Very, very bizarre to me. And then at one point in the middle of the episode, we got like an overhead shot of Cade's area, and it looked absolutely glorious for fishing. He had that bay with some nice points jutting out into the water on the one side that I think was across from where he put his camp. He would have been able to cast quite deep into the lake. Would have had lots of different options for hunting out the fish, but yet we did not see him even look at the lake even once all season long. And then we see Cade. He's still trying to hunt a bear, and he can't even hold his camera. Like, what was his plan if he had somehow managed to kill a bear with an aluminum can arrow tip? Like, he wouldn't have been able to to harvest that animal, he wouldn't have been able to get that meat back to his camp. Like, he was done. He was absolutely done, yet still out there trying to get this bear that we all knew just wasn't going to happen. In the end, he ends up passing out for over an hour. Extremely reckless, extremely dangerous. Thankfully, you know, he tapped out and got evacuated before anything serious happened to him. Hopefully he does recover, but honestly, I will not miss Cade for the rest of the season. So with Cade gone, that leaves 5 contestants left. All the Canadians are still in, just going to throw that out there, including Alan, who, as I've said before, is my favorite contestant this season due to family connection. We see him finishing his gill net up, and I kind of thought to myself, it probably feels like that's happening a little bit too slow for him. Like, he probably should have had that gill net done in the first week, but it did look like a nice, well-made, pretty large gill net. I think larger than what we saw from most of the other competitors who have made gill nets this season. He did manage to get that in the water, but would have loved to have seen him have that, you know, already producing for him for 2 weeks. Finishing up his shelter, we saw him building his door, and then we had a little quote from Alan which stuck out to me, and he said that the teachers he liked the most were the ones who cared about him as a human, which was very interesting because that is the exact reason why my brother-in-law loved him as a teacher. So it was very cool to hear him say that, and also hear it, that exact sentiment resonated with one of his former students. We did learn that he's lost 34 pounds already this season. Sometimes when they're showing those weight losses, it is a sign that that individual is getting close to the end. But we do see that he was running low on fish, but managed to catch 4 fish in rapid succession to kind of keep him going in the game. Next up, we have Mikey. We kind of got a little montage of his shelter building journey. You know, went from this little kind of lean-to that he whipped together on day 1 to, I believe it was a teepee that he tried, into eventually another lean-to style. And after that 3-week journey, it pretty much looked like he was back with his shelter from day 1 with a few branches and moss piled on the outside. So I thought that was interesting. That little temporary shelter that he built at the start ends up being pretty much what he ends up living in. We learn that Mikey hasn't had protein since day 10. You see him start building some traps because mice are starting to get into his shelter. And he does manage to get one mouse, which he says it's a rat, and then comically we get the little subtitle on the screen. This is a field mouse. Pretty entertaining. Out of our final 5, I feel like Mikey's probably going to be our next to tap. I just don't think that he has built up enough momentum in his journey to really last much longer. You know, his fortunes would really have to change here over the next few days for him to even make it to day 30. So we'll have to wait and see. You know, one catch, one bird, one fish can kind of sustain you for a decent amount of time, especially when some of the fish that they're pulling out of those lakes, out of the lake, are like 4 or 5 pounds. You know, they're not just single meal fish, they're multi-meal fish. And when you're in a survival situation, you can extend that even longer. So, you know, if he catches one big fish, that can put him right back on track and back in the game. Lastly, we have Wyatt, and this was really his journey with his gold lures. You know, we see him start catching fish with the gold Hellfire lure, and no clue how many fish he ended up catching with it. Probably had to be close to double digits. But we see him catch one fish, and the next fish steals his lure. The rest of the episode was him crafting lure number 2, the Gold Fury, and he didn't last very long before he lost that lure as well, without it even getting him one fish. We do learn at the end of the episode that he is down to his final treble hook, which is a 3-pronged hook, which is perfect for the tail end of a lure. So he'll probably have a chance to build one more lure, but if he loses that, he could be in a tough spot fishing wise, and really fishing is his primary source of food this season. So who didn't we see? We didn't see Melanie and Taz. So that's our final 5: Melanie, Taz, Wyatt, Mikey, and Alan. I think it's going to be interesting. You know, maybe Taz is a little bit ahead after this episode. I thought it was a good episode for Alan. Maybe those two are a little bit ahead of everybody else, but we all know how quickly things can change on Alone. Just look at Luke. You know, he had tons of food saved up. He was getting food nonstop. Got sick, tapped out. So things can change quickly. And now that we've had 5 tap outs in 5 days, almost makes you wonder, like, is this going to end up being one of the shorter seasons on record? I feel like people are getting food, but with this tap out rate, who knows? That's going to wrap things up for today. As always, everybody, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, see you later.